Hey, what's up guys, Revamp here, and today we're going to be looking at an interesting comp coming out from TSM in the finals of the T1 and Nerdstreet Gamers Tournament finals in North America. You're going to notice that TSM are running a Sageless comp on Ascent. They're going to be trading that Sage for a Brimstone here, and we're going to be able to see how they utilize those two smoke characters in Brimstone and Omen, and those two flashes in Phoenix and Omen to secure the win here against T1 in the grand finals. So T1 are on the attacking side, and TSM are on the defending side. T1 are setting up for an A split, meaning that these two players on the catwalk right here are trying to walk through this A garden at the same time as these three players in A main are trying to walk through the A site. They're trying to do this simultaneously and surround a player that could be playing in the middle of this site. However, TSM are not playing inside the A site. They are doubling up inside the A gardens. And we're going to see why that's useful in a minute, and how they're able to delay the T1 team even without having anyone on this bomb site. So it's 1 minute 20 in the round, just pretty a normal pace for an A split on this map, and we're going to see, I believe, Skadoodle start to grab this orb in A main, which is what's gonna prompt Hayes to put down this smoke and block off the A entrance. So now this is, these cat players now need to wait for the smoke in A main to fade before they can commit to the site. Otherwise, these players are gonna sit behind the smoke. These guys are gonna run into the A garden and probably get picked off by Subrosa and Hazed in A garden. So they're stuck in a bad position here. They need to wait. Not a huge deal since they still have time, but we're gonna see how having this many smokes on the defender side can really cost the attackers it really messes up their timing for their execute. So these A main players are still waiting for this smoke to fade, and right as the smokes fade, Subrosa will put a Brimstone smoke in cat. Now, these cat players now have to wait. Well, the A main players now have to wait for this smoke to fade before they can execute their split. So this is another. They still need to wait out both these smokes now that Hayes has added another one in A main. They have to wait out both these smokes, and only then will they be able to safely push onto the site. So already they were at mid 40 seconds ago. 40 seconds ago they could have been hitting this site, but they've gotten smoked out for a whole 40 seconds. It's only now, with 30 seconds left, that the execute's going to come in, and you're going to notice that none of these TSM players gave their life trying to hold this A garden. They're both going to hold the A garden, let the enemy team get into the A site, because they know that this position, the A garden, essentially guarantees them the retake. And we're going to be looking into that now. So what their TSM's plan is in this round is that if T1 are to take the A site, all of the players that weren't near A are going to come through heaven. So that's going to be the Phoenix, the Cypher, and the Sova. They're going to come through A heaven for this retake. And since Subrosa and Hazed are still in the A garden, they can burst through this door at any time and hit the A site at the same time as these Heaven players do. That's their plan going into this. We're going to see that stuff doesn't exactly work out because Crashies will lurk in mid and sort of it's going to make a good play, but it won't work out to win T1 the round. The setup will still be good for TSM, even though their play in Garden doesn't quite work out. So 5-on-5 until Brax over peaks. Gets picked off by a nice shot from Drone. And we're going to see the retake. Since they still have this Garden control, they're going to break this wall, pop in a flash, and now here comes the hit. There's people swinging on either side. It then becomes very difficult for someone playing on this generator or near the green default box to hold off these players who are trying to wrap around the site from here, and Heaven. And so this hold is pretty much impossible for anyone that's on the site. They get collapsed on pretty quickly, and even though Crashies does lurk and pick off the guys in the A garden, A tree, whatever you want to call it, it won't really matter in the end. The retake does work out. And this was just a solid plan from TSM, and this setup is pretty much what we're going to see all game. We're going to keep prioritizing this A garden and just making it very, very difficult for the enemy team to lock down a good A site hold. So for this next little segment, we're going to be jumping in straight into the middle of a round to showcase how TSM are able to use their 2 flashes to essentially to create a lot of pressure on anyone trying to take control of this mid area. So what happened here this round is that T1 made a lot of noise towards B, which is what caused Haze to rotate into mid and Drone to rotate into B. And by now, everything has gone quiet in B as T1 are regrouping toward this mid side and are going to try to take this mid control. The setup we're seeing here is Haze is going to be ready with his Omen Flash. He's going to send it out this way on the map, and Drone's going to be able to peek. And then at any time, Drone can also use his own flashbang. So T1 smokes this off. They're trying to get Wrap into B site most likely, or at the very least put some pressure into mid. We see the smoke come out from Haze, and Drone is peeking with it. Gets all the info that no one's up market. Haze is able to re-smoke this in the CT side near Drone. And we're going to see Drone use his own flash here after he gets a 2-piece. So the Wrap starts coming in, 1, 2. And since they still have another flash character, Drone can still enable himself into this peak. Nearly wins it out against AZK, but gets counter-flashed. The idea was still there, and that was just a solid setup from TSM. This double flash setup is probably something they could have abused more heavily in this game, in my opinion. And it's certainly something that's interesting with their pairing of Omen and Phoenix that I wanted to point out. We're going to be skipping right to TSM's attacking side here, because I think that's really where the double smoke setup thrives for TSM. So this is the attacking pistol, and we're going to see a pretty normal default setup with Drone making some noise towards B, a smoke mid to deny information, and get Haze on this angle towards Cat, and a few people watching the A push. So the objective here, the plan for this round for TSM initially, is to make it seem like TSM are trying to slid into B by hitting this B main and also hitting this B market simultaneously. But in reality, what they want to do is head towards cat after having made some noise in market. They're hoping that some of the B site players for T1 get pulled over to the A site. So they're going to break this tripwire in mid, make it seem like they're coming through mid by smoking off the CT here in a second. Yeah, that's the smoke. Smoke CT, breaking the door rather. And now they're going to fall back to A. Notice how they've used 2 smokes on this pistol round. 1 smoke in mid and 1 smoke deeper into CT to sell this fake. And yet they still have plenty of smokes to take this A site. It's definitely one of the advantages of this double smoke comp. So a lot of people towards the A garden, and then Cypher towards A main. Going to try to hit this site, but the slow really shuts them down. They get a few trades, but in reality, once they see this slow come out, they're going to be trying to fall back into it, into B site. Now what they don't know, or what I don't think they know, is that there's 2 people pushing their back, and they're going to have to take those fights before they can go to B. But the key thing is that they are going to win these fights in mid, and now they head to B, and what you're going to notice is that all this, they've essentially done 2 takes, right? This mid take would be like a fine, good B take. This A take would have been good, like right amount of smokes, and now you're going to see that they still have enough smokes to take this B site late into this round. They still have enough smokes, which is really big winning factor, I think, in this round. They were essentially able to do 3 full takes in 1 round while still having utility. Now they need to rush onto the site. A bad 3v1 for Skadoodle, and he's going to lose this. Yeah. So main thing to note here is that they've essentially done 3 executes. 1 executes with 2 smokes towards mid, 1 execute with a smoke garden, and I believe a smoke heaven. I'm not sure. And then they've also used 1 smoke on CT again for their B take. So this would be completely impossible, realistically, if you had a Sage in the mix. Because Hayes was able to not only get his 2 smokes off, but probably a 3rd. As the key part of this composition is the fact that Omen's smokes refresh over time. That over 30 seconds, every 30 seconds after having used a smoke, Omen gets 1 smoke back, which means that they can use certainly 6 smokes in a round reasonably. TSM can, rather. They can use 6 smokes in 1 round and really just do a bunch of pushes all over the map to throw off the enemy rotations. And that's the main thing you're going to see on their attacking side. Going to see a lot of movement, a lot of different takes in different areas. And it's going to be really, really annoying for the one side to know where exactly TSM are going to end up at the end of the round. So here's another interesting attacking round from TSM, where we're going to see how TSM are able to consistently deny information in middle with a smoke onto this catwalk. It's going to blend here, and a smoke mid with little to no cost at the end of the day for their team. They don't lose out on anything, essentially, by smoking this catwalk and this early middle at the start of the round. And we're also going to see the classic TSM on Ascent sort of movement around between the sites, throwing a lot of fakes. So you're going to see a smoke cat, I believe, from Subrosa, and a smoke mid from Haste. So both smokes pop. Now these two players in Garden have no clue how many people are in the mid. There could be 5 people here. There could be no one here, and they're all sitting in a main or something. But the defenders have no clue, and there's no real way for them to know this, to know how many people are in mid, essentially. So after those B smokes, you're going to see TSM partially regroup towards this B main. They're going to try and fight into this B main, try and pick off Crashies, who's now walked into this this B cubby right here. I'm going to fight this and then fall back once they realize that it's becoming a little precarious, a little dangerous here. And Subrosa will go down, unfortunately. So this, theoretically, if T1 were on the attack and the Omen were to die, this would mean that they have no smokes to take a site. However, even if Subrosa dies, they're still going to have enough smokes to take a site with Haste still alive. Crashes gets the information off his ult, falls back, and you're going to see TSM regroup towards mid. The smokes to deny information mid have now faded. They're going to move up after breaking this tripwire in mid. A smoke CT. Notice how they can, since they have 2 smoke characters, they can still smoke this off even though one is picked off. Gives them enough time to cross into market, and they're going to just take a different approach into B than they were taking earlier. So throwing another slight fake into this, keeping the enemy team guessing. You can see that they actually had 3 towards A. Because as it turns out, it's going to be a B hit, and you're going to see that, again, they still have another smoke for this B side of CT. It's really going to shut down the enemy rotate. Brax and I believe AZK are stuck behind the smoke, and it's keeping Crashes alone into the site. So again, 15 seconds in the round, and they still had smokes to take a site. And this is just gonna play out like a regular clutch. The smokes don't really have a particular impact here. So I'm mostly going to skip through this. Cutler wins this run out against Brax, I believe. Yeah. So pretty much they were able to put some pressure towards B, still lose a smoke character, and still be able to complete their execute, which is something that would have been completely impossible to have a complete execute while missing Brax, for example. If T1 were attacking and they had lost Brax, this take would have certainly been sloppier from T1 than it was from TSM. So we've looked at a few rounds which showed off how the double smoke and no sage composition worked out on Ascent for TSM, but it's time to make a verdict and compare between the composition T1 is running and the composition that TSM is running. Sort of what's the pros and cons of each of these compositions. So for TSM, what we've seen is that having 2 characters that can deploy smokes makes it possible to, on the attacking side, to fake multiple sites in one round. You've seen that, we saw in that one round, I believe it was the pistol, yes, it was the attacking pistol round, where we saw essentially a mid take, then a cat take, and then a take through B market. all in one round, all while having the right amount of utility, which is something that's completely impossible on this this composition that T1 is running. So overall, the this double smoke comp on the attacking side allows you to play in between sites a lot more, make a lot more team rotations, and throw a lot more fakes. It also allows you on the defensive side to have a slightly easier time retaking, in my opinion. The reason being is that if you're running the Sage and a site is hit within the let's say like last 50 seconds of a round or so, it is very likely that you've used your wall at that point. And so you're left with very few options to cut off the line of sight from anyone trying to defend the bomb. What we saw in that pistol round defenders retake from TSM is that they were able to keep AZK locked out of the A site for like essentially the majority of the relevant action of this retake, just through their smokes that a hazed has. Even while having used multiple smokes on this A catwalk and on this B and on this A main earlier in the round, so they were able to both delay the hit with these smokes and also still have resources to aid in the retake. Which then again, if you were running this Sage on the defender side, you probably would have used this wall earlier on in the round, and same goes for this single smoke character from Brax. He probably would have used his smoke at some point, most of his relevant smokes at some point in that round, and he wouldn't have had nearly as many options to block off this A main section in that retake. So for the Sage composition, what it really offers you, the big difference, is a slightly stronger sight hold, in the sense that a Sage that's anchoring this A site, for example, like we saw in the attacking pistol round from TSM, can be very hard to deal with. We saw the Sage put out 2 slows into the A garden area, and that really did slow down the push from TSM. However, that's not really a big issue at the end of the day when you're comparing these two compositions, when you consider that TSM were just able to rotate to this B site and hit it with the proper amount of smokes, hit it very safely, even if they were shut down a bit. And obviously, another thing that Sage brings to the table is her heal and her res, which is practical if you're taking duels early on in the round. All in all, I think that this double smoke composition from TSM is definitely very interesting, and it's definitely something you should consider on Ascent if you're a very tactical team that likes to throw fakes and move around between bomb site on the attacking side, or if you're a team that definitely favors retakes on the defending side. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to catch you all next time.